We are beginning the program live in Brisbane. We're hearing here from the Queensland Premier, David Crisafulli. He's giving an update on Tropical Cyclone Alfred.
Overnight, and all of the modelling at the moment from the Bureau of Meteorology does show it taking a turn back into the coast overnight and continuing to cross the coast. The area of interest has narrowed, as we said yesterday it would, and it's now just north of Noosa to just south of the border. So a largely populated area, and we're asking Queenslanders to stay on their guard. Flood watch remains from the Mary River through all of those catchments all the way down to the border and beyond. The overnight modelling shows that the cyclone has firmed, and all of the information does show that this is something we need to take seriously. We are prepared. We're asking Queenslanders to do the same. It's a really rare event for southeast Queensland, but it is serious and it is happening, and we want Queenslanders to be prepared. We are, and we want Queenslanders to know we'll get through this if you do the preparation. And the little things that you do now make a big difference at the back end of the system in whatever that looks like, wherever it crosses, at whatever intensity. We're asking a large part of the population in a pretty big area, in a large population, to be ready, and it's important that you do the little things and at work, across the back fence, talk to your neighbours. There is still an element of the population that hasn't yet fully understood the magnitude of this system, and that's completely understandable because it's been many decades since Queensland has been here in this part of the state. But one thing I know about Queenslanders is they handle disasters better than anywhere else, and we've proven that time and time again. And I know the people in the southeast may not have experienced a cyclone before, but they've been tested with floods and they've come through with flying colours every time. And whilst this is a different kind of event, the preparations you put in place make a world of difference, and you've proven before that you can do it, and I'm sure that you will again. There are 3 stages of the expected weather event. The first is big surf and significant erosion. The second are those damaging winds and, in many cases, destructive winds. And the third is significant rain, flooding, and the potential for dangerous storm surge. We are well and truly in the first phase right now. Overnight, we had a reading of a wave over 7 metres off North Stratty. So that should give you an indication that this is a serious system, and those reports will continue. I've spoken about the breakthrough of the Pumicestone Passage through the northern part of Bribie and the impact on Caloundra. The Deputy Premier is actually there on the ground at the moment, and we want the residents of that area to also heed the warnings and take it seriously. Our immediate priority today, the at-risk areas, particularly those islands, they will be the first Queenslanders to experience this event in the days ahead. So we're asking a few things. People who live on those islands, people who might live on houseboats, please absorb the message and make a decision about your welfare and do everything you can to stay connected. Passenger ferry services will cease today. There is a staged approach for vehicle barges, but one thing's for certain, the window to make a decision if you live on those islands is closing really quickly. Once you make the decision to go or to stay, we will support you. But you've got to make the decision, and you have to plan for that, and you have to make sure that you've got all of those logistics in place, and we will support you in that. We've used that window to get ready. So we've pre-deployed generators to those island areas. We've put some state government staff on those islands, for example, extra health staff. So I want you to know we're taking this seriously, and we're asking Queenslanders to do the same. A number of evacuations are occurring for those islands for vulnerable people, so door knocking is taking place at the moment, and that information will be led by councils. We'll certainly be supporting them in there. I have a message for people in the low-lying coastal areas. So that's everything from people who might be on a canal, in a low-lying area, someone on a waterfront, areas that you have seen before that have been impacted by storm surges. One of our major focuses is asking people to prepare on that coastal fringe. Modelling work's continuing. We're doing a lot of work with the local governments to do that, but there's no doubt that there is a potential impact that comes with storm surge. I want to explain what that risk is and explain to Queenslanders what that means and why modelling in the days ahead is so important and why it's so important that you stay connected. Ultimately, the severity of the system, when it crosses and where it crosses are all really important factors. If it is to cross at high tide, it makes it a far more challenging prospect. So the modelling that councils are doing at the moment is to factor in a storm surge over and above what that high tide is. Now, as the system gets closer, that will be communicated and councils will lead that. As I said, we'll assist if extra horsepower is needed on the ground. That'll be led by councils to communicate to their residents. They'll do the modelling. But if somebody knocks on your door in the days ahead and explains the kind of area that you're in and what is expected, please listen to their advice. Likewise, as information is made available, I'll go through those websites in a moment, but as information is made available, council will provide those maps as well. And you will see what is predicted in terms of that storm surge if it was to occur over and above that high tide. So most people are familiar in their local area what that means, but we'll articulate that as well. We're continuing to direct emergency services to provide any assistance that is available. Today you're going to hear from the Acting Commissioner, the Chief Officer from the SES, the Chief Officer from Marine Rescue Queensland, the Commissioner of the Queensland Fire Department, Peter Scott from Energex. We are taking this seriously. We are preparing. The SES, as well as the Commissioner, will speak about sandbagging and how we're working and helping with local government. But I want to give a couple of examples about how seriously we're taking this, but also why I'm so proud to be a Queenslander. I just met a couple of people, people like Jack, who I met in Ingham, people like Bryce, who I saw at the airport in Townsville. It was only a few days ago that they were helping mates at the other end of the state. Now they're back in their backyard. And the favour's going to be returned. We'll see staff from an array of state government and community groups come from the other end of the state to help South East Queenslanders. And that tells you everything you need to know. It tells you everything you need to know about the kind of people that go into these organisations, but also the challenge that lies ahead. There are 463 police recruits who are going to get a first taste of helping their community. They're going to be out and about helping with some of the door-knocking activity in the days ahead as well. And that shows you that service can come on board earlier at times. I want to turn to telecommunications, power, utilities, the important things that people will see in the days ahead. There's been an assessment done of all major transmission sites right up and down the coast. Generators have been fuelled, pumps are ready to go. We've pre-positioned a lot of those assets. Energex also have a number of extra generators, those capacities. We're working with councils to determine where else they can be pre-positioned. I mentioned yesterday about a dozen of them being put onto the islands, but there's a number of communities that, as we model this closer, we'll look to pre-position those generators, but there is quite an element of those as well. Schools. Schools will be open tomorrow, and tomorrow we'll be back to articulate to people what that will look like for Thursday, but tomorrow schools are open. Turning to transport, the port of Brizzy is now closed to freight. The airport, BOM and the airports are working together. They have set procedures based on wind velocity, and they'll be communicating that directly to people. So if passengers are considering changing their flight, they should go directly to their airline. I'm told that the airlines will also be reaching out to some of those passengers. That's handled by them, that's their call. They have the procedures in place that they follow, and it's important that people do all they can to stay connected. Likewise with some of the other public transports, we'll be talking a little bit more about that in the days ahead, but there are guidelines that they will follow in that regard. I want to turn to food because I know that supermarket supply is something that is front and centre. Today I can announce that we have amended regulations to allow resupply in 21 local government areas to be conducted 24/7. That's never happened before a disaster. I want to thank the Deputy Premier. I mentioned to you yesterday he's been leading that. He has spoken directly with the supermarkets, and as I said, the connectivity issue that we experienced in North and Far North Queensland, where there was no way of getting through the Bruce and we had to look at aerial routes, that's not an issue here. There's access north and south. And by lifting those restrictions, it'll be 2 weeks from tonight, by lifting those restrictions, it will enable more supply to get there. And then it's up to the supermarkets to continue to do all they can to meet the demand, meet the resupply, and have adequate staffing to do so. I just want to touch quickly on some of the homelessness issues. I want to thank the Department of Housing. Their critical response teams are working together with councils, but also the service providers on the ground. There are a number of community organisations who do a world of good work here. We're going to do all we can to offer that immediate assistance to those people who accept those offers, and that offer will be made and will be made multiple times as well. Anyone needing help, we do have a 24/7 homeless hotline, 1800 474 753. Turning to dams, we are continuing to get briefings from SEQ Water. I've just spoken to the Minister this morning as well as moments ago. The Minister has instructed SEQ Water to make a public statement so that Queenslanders can see the timings and the strategy behind those releases, and I'm told that is happening this afternoon in about an hour's time. I want to loop back to the websites that I mentioned yesterday. So disaster.qld.gov.au, disaster.qld.gov.au, that will be all of the information as it's happening. As we get it, we'll be sharing it on those platforms. For example, there's information like sandbagging locations on there. There's the local disaster dashboard. If this is the first time that you have prepared for an event, you might be new to Queensland, or it might be the first time that you have had this kind of lead time to get ready. We've got a website which is Get Ready, and it's important that you look on that website to see the information. So it's getready, one word, .qld.gov.au. There's a lot of helpful hints there about the things that you should consider doing before an event, and starts with doing the little things around your house. That's the difference between a flood and a potential cyclone. With a cyclone, there is that added complexity that the wind system and loose items in the yard, things in your gutter, can really provide challenges. Overhanging branches can then mean the difference between your home being breached. Now, obviously, the flooding that comes after a system, particularly on the southern end, is very, very, very difficult. And in fact, in many cases, it can be the biggest complexity for us to handle. But that is the difference. And if people do those little things around their house, it's very important. Finally, my final message. This is a very rare event for South East Queensland, but it's not unprecedented, and we are asking you to take it seriously. I want you to know we are, and I have every faith that we'll get through it, and I want to thank Queenslanders for the way they have responded in getting ready to date.